Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always, and today we are joined by an old friend of mine and a very special guest, Rich Fettke. Rich and his wife Kathy are the co-founders and co-CEOs of the Real Wealth Network. Since 2003, Real Wealth Network has helped people build passive income by helping them acquire fully renovated, cash-flowing income properties with minimal time invested on their part. These properties are located in the best emerging U.S. markets with experienced property management in place. Rich is the one who oversees the marketing and business development at Real Wealth Network. Rich is a licensed real estate broker and investor and is also the former CEO of a large health club franchise, you may know. As a master certified business coach and the author of Extreme Success, Rich has been featured in USA Today, Entrepreneur Magazine, and the Wall Street Journal. With a love for adventure sports, Rich has also competed in the ESPN X Games and is a record-holding bungee jumper, a skydiver, rock climber, skier, and surfer. I've asked him to join us here today because, well, I just haven't had any real estate investing experts on the show yet, and I know myself it's something that's been on my list for years, but just hasn't made any progress forward. Knowing Rich for probably at least 4 years now, I feel like an idiot because he makes it so simple. So I asked him to come on the show, kickstart my real estate investing endeavors, and hopefully help some of our listeners out. And like all
Yeah.
these other things, like it's just in your head. So if anyone's listening to that and they hear you say that, do you have any advice if someone was like afraid of building that team or they're going to take an income cut because they have to hire people? What would you suggest to someone?
I guess feel the fear and do it anyway. That great book,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's do it. Do it would be the advice because it is you just getting out of your own way. You are if you have the vision for your company, and that's the most powerful thing. And it's as the leader, it's about you communicating that vision. And so bringing in people who are more talented, more experienced, smarter, everything is the way that you're going to reach that vision a lot faster than if you're trying to do it on your own or hire B players who you're constantly having to, look over their shoulder and just forget it. It's
Yep.
just I've done it in the past, so I know that hiring people who are great and smarter and all that is a much easier and much more enjoyable way to operate a
Got
business.
it.
It's not just making a lot of money. It's about having not only the money, but also the
Hmm.
freedom to live life on your own
Yeah, and I'm
terms.
really glad you make that distinction because, people listening to this call, I'm not sure if your situation is really good or really bad or anything, but I can say I've been on all sides of the fences. And, money is better life is better when you have money, or at least I prefer life with money, but it definitely isn't everything. It really isn't. I see people all the time that they trade their life for dollars and they're slaves to it and they're trapped to it. And, they might want to make it look all flashy on the outside, but when they're putting in 12-hour days, 6, 7 days a week.
Dude, I live in Malibu, and you wouldn't believe how many very wealthy, talking billionaires who are empty and
Yep.
miserable. And that is not real wealth. Exactly. And
Really good income from real estate without all that weight and baggage or
oh my goodness, yes, we've got several testimonial videos of couples that we've helped over the years. One couple that took one property that they owned, they sold it in San Francisco, which is a high price
mm,
market. They turned it and they increased their income 6 times through that one property.
wow.
They bought, I think it was 20 properties after selling that one.
Yep.
These investment properties that we have available at Real Wealth Network through our affiliates and teams, they are fully renovated, cash flowing income properties. They're located in the best emerging U.S. markets. They have property management in place. So basically, it's like much more a passive
Hmm.
investment. It's more like mailbox money.
Got it. So it's real.
So very, very doable. Yeah, no, we've seen it. I've seen it so many times.
And I know myself, I can speak to some of it, but at least in your experience, what are some of the biggest pitfalls you see people fall into?
The, there's three big ones. So let me start with
Okay.
it. I'll keep them short. The first one is they get into they think they want to be a real estate investor, and they start spending thousands and thousands of dollars on courses and education and gurus and
Hmm.
mentors. And I've met people who spent fifty to $100,000 on education and don't own a single investment
Wow.
property. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that we see people do. They come to Real Wealth Network and they're like, "What? You give all this education away for free or for $10 a month?"
Right.
So that's a big one. Second one is people thinking that they can get into investing by fixing and flipping, and they think, "Oh, on the side, I'm going to find a rundown property. I'm going to fix it up like they do on these TV shows, fix it up, and then I'm going to flip it and make $100,000." And we've seen a lot of people lose money in that because it usually takes several fixes and flips before you learn what you're
Hmm.
doing. And you just don't have economy of scale. It's like it costs a lot to go and do that whole
Hmm.
thing. And there's the time it takes if you don't do it in just a few months. If it takes you any delays, do you have any building permits that you're waiting for? it can, the holding cost of the property can really sink people financially. And then the third is I see people who think, oh, I'll look at these, I'll come to Real Wealth Network, I'll look at what their best markets are in the US for investing, and I'll go out and I'll buy an investment property from a realtor, not realizing that they're going to usually be paying over market price for the investment property. And two, a lot of times they're trying to manage it themselves and they're dealing with tenants and toilets and challenges and all that. And trying to do that from afar is hard. So that's why we created a system with teams around the country who buy these teams that we work with. They're separate businesses. They've been in it for years, and they'll pick up 20 or 30 properties from a bank, like foreclosures, all at once. They have multiple teams of workers who come in. They use all the same materials, all the same tile, all the same hardwood floors, the paint, everything they need. So they buy it in bulk, much cheaper, and they have a system. So all their properties kind of look the same on the inside, but they get them all fixed up. They're beautiful, and then they find tenants, and they put a tenant in place. They manage the property, or have a property manager manage it, which is only usually about 8 to 10% of the monthly rent. Still, it ends up being positive cash flow. And so then what we do is we help bring investors to these people who've done it and have these properties available. So we're kind of the connectors. We help educate people on how to do it. We make the connection with our affiliates. And the truth is, with these affiliates, like the different teams, there's about 100 of them a month coming to us saying, hey, we want to sell our properties to your members. And of those 100, about one of them we accept after doing a very thorough vetting process. We have a Six Sigma black belt analysis guy who comes in and goes through a full checklist of vetting to make sure they're legit, the properties are good. They flies out to the market, inspects their properties, inspects property management, interviews tenants. And so it's pretty stringent to try to get through and become one of our affiliates. That's why we only have about 12 markets.
Right. That has 2 vacancies. You know what I mean? Like, how do you manage the property manager?
It's a great question. Basically, you'll get a monthly statement that shows anything that if there was a repair that needed to be made, it will be itemized. You'll see, get a statement each month showing how much you made on the property. If it's vacant, they're out there to find a tenant as soon as possible. And if it goes longer than that, like say it's, more than a month or 2 months without a tenant in there, then what you would do is you would contact us at Real Wealth Network and say, hey, this has been vacant for 2 months. Our property management company hasn't done anything with it. What's going on here? And we have a guy who's going to go out and audit that. We're going to look at the power of the network, basically, and we're going to reach out to that property manager saying, hey, what's going on? And kind of like we become the bad cop.
What are some of the tools that you've used to build your presence and your following? You've got a great product. You've got a great business model. How have you kind of gotten word out there about what you do?
Great question. And one of the number one is the Real Wealth Show, which is the podcast that Kathy started back in. Podcasting. It's amazing. It's we started that in 2005. It's like right when iTunes came out with podcasts, and Kathy was already doing a radio show on regular AM radio. And I said, can you get the disc from them? They would, she'd bring a disc home, I'd pop it in, I'd burn it, and I'd upload it as an MP3 to iTunes, and that has been a huge thing. And now we've come up with a second podcast called Real Estate News for Investors, and that's crushing it. Both Real Wealth Show and Real Estate News for Investors are always holding the top spots, in the top 3 spots on iTunes in real estate investing and real estate. It's very accurate, and it's like, I think through podcasting and video and, really experience someone over many, many months, it's like people know that Kathy's the real deal. And when she interviews our affiliates and these property providers and other experts, like everything from mortgage brokers to accountants to attorneys, they start to see the depth of her knowledge and how we operate, and values come through. When you listen to a podcast for a while, you start to know the person and what they value, and you can. We have a built-in sleaze detector, I think, as humans, and you can pick it up after a while. You listen to someone for some few hours, and you're like, okay, this person's a little sleazy, or this person's the real deal.
Possessed or have learned to have that have really helped you be successful?
There's 2 that stand out. One is, for many years, I've created what I call my self-coaching forum, and I've had my own coaches over the past almost 20 years, where someone would support me, hold me accountable, coach me, and all that. And I also coach myself. So every Monday morning, I create what I call my self-coaching forum, and at the top it says, "How was your week? What how did it go?" And then I've got my list of my successes and wins from the week, which is always cool. That's been a great one. And then I have results of my actions from the week. I set 3 main intentions every week that I'm going to accomplish. Like if I don't get to anything, what are my big
Mm-hmm.
three? And I do that for every day. What are my big three for the day? I have a big three for the year. So it's kind of simplifying
Mm-hmm.
that. And then I have what I call my rituals for health, wealth, and happiness. So just like back in grade school where you give yourself a star if you do something, or you don't get a star if you don't, I have little things like practice piano for 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes. I have daily yoga and meditation. And if I do it, I check it off. If I don't, I don't. And I kind of take a tally at the end of the week every Monday and say, how did I do that last week? Was it 7/7? Was it 4/7? And just kind of keeps me aware of how I'm operating and what's working, what's
Mm.
not. Yeah, I would say it's not envy for me, it's excitement. So when I see someone that's done something really cool, I usually look at it like, oh, awesome, I'm going to do
Mm.
that. And so it's more inspiration rather than
True.
they have it and I don't, because I know if I want it, I can get
Right.
it. So no, and at the same time, yes, I do have to constantly remind myself to think about what I'm grateful for. Like I said this morning, I sat there on my surfboard and just floating, and I just went through a whole list of all the things I'm grateful
Mm.
for, because that keeps the envy away. It keeps
Yep.
yeah, it just keeps you in that abundant mindset. Like, man, look what I
Yeah.
have. It's so
Yeah,
amazing.
I'm a huge fan of the 5 minute journal. It's like a morning ritual. That's basically they say like,
Me too.
yeah,
I do it
do you?
too,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh
I've
yeah.
had dinner with
That's
UJ. He lives in Toronto. I'm trying to get him on the show. Great guy. What have been some of your biggest role models in your life? Who have been like your big guideposts as you've kind of evolved as an entrepreneur and learned all these lessons? You mentioned Michael Gerber.
Yeah, he's big. I mean, there's a lot of mentors that I've had that don't know they're my mentors,
Mm.
from their listening to their audio. It's like Brian Tracy. I've listened to hundreds and hundreds of hours of his old cassette tapes back in the
Mm.
day. And I used to, when our gym was starting off and we weren't making enough to pay the bills, I was out painting houses in the day and working the gym at night. And I would have Sony Walkman on all the time, scraping and painting houses, listening to how to start and succeed in your own business. So it was just, I don't know how many I wore those tapes out. So he was a big mentor without knowing it. Arnold Schwarzenegger was a huge inspiration for me as a
Yep.
bodybuilder and gym owner, and just the way he sets his mind to
Oh
something and
yeah.
sets a vision. So he was a big influence. And then Richard Carlson, who wrote "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff," was a big influence on me. He passed away way too early, but he really inspired me around the gratefulness and the love and the don't stress out piece. He was a big influence in that. So, going to his memorial service, and I made a personal commitment for myself of I want to live the way that man lived. I want to
Mm.
come from that loving, kind, calm, Zen
Mm,
place.
mm. But where do you see the future of things going? As far as how it is, there's a lot of immigration happening. There's cultural issues. There's a ton of information now that's available that hasn't been available before, just because of things like you mentioned, like podcasts and the internet. So people are becoming much savvier. Where do you see the industry
Hmm.
going in the next 5, 10, 15, 50 years?
The real estate
Yeah.
industry. Oh man, I mean, real estate is always proven to be one of the best all-time vehicles for building wealth. And it's because there's tax benefits, there's leverage, there's rental income that offsets expenses, like your tenants are paying for the property over
Hmm.
time. And so then and there can be appreciation. We never bet on appreciation. We want a investment property to make sense from day
Hmm.
one. So it's cash flowing right up front. So then, there was that big real estate downturn and everything. But the truth is, the people who own investment real estate that were rental properties, it didn't affect them because rents actually went up because more people were losing their homes. So they had to rent homes, and those people who own the properties and were renting them out, they were solid.
Mm.
So, it's with the fluctuations and the things constantly changing and the stock market going up and down and being so volatile, what I love about real estate is that it is a solid, real, tangible asset. And as my wife Kathy says, the last time I checked, people like to live indoors. It's like, so people, we always are going to need real estate. So and, now that we've been through a couple market cycles, that Kathy and I have been, involved in real estate for almost 20 years, we've seen, and we've been challenged, we've lost properties, we've lost money, and we've made a lot of money from it too. And so just seeing the cycles, it's all about being educated. So I think you can continue to thrive in real estate. I think the real estate industry, yes, there is going to be a drop, no doubt about it, probably within the next 1 or 2
Mm.
years. But when you are owning cash flow rental properties, those drops in prices don't matter because you just, as long as you can control the property and keep paying your mortgage, which actually your tenant is, there's no worries because you're not going to say, oh, my property lost 50% of its value. I need to sell it. You just hold it until there's enough things come up
Right.
again. And now things are right back to, in many markets, above those bubble prices that we thought were so
Right.
crazy.
So yeah, like you say, you're always making money when you buy. You don't buy it and bet on that you're going to make money in the future. You're like, no, no, this is going to be profitable now, which essentially is the mantra of your company because that's when someone buys a property through you guys, they're buying it and it's already going to be, excuse me, it's already going to be profitable from day one.